Hello everyone. Now that we've seen how the different web languages and technologies come together and that we've created a somewhat complete and functional application, we're reaching the end of this series. You should now have a better idea of how to plan and develop a transactional website with interactive features and polished visuals. Let's recap what we learned in the series. On the front end, we have languages that take care of everything visual, namely HTML, CSS, and JavaScript. HTML is a markup language that contains both the web page's content as well as tags to format how it's going to be displayed. CSS determines the meaning of those tags. It defines which styles to apply to which elements in the HTML. JavaScript is an actual programming language, and it enables us to make the website interactive by allowing user actions and providing feedback, whether through animations, dialog boxes, changing the content of the page, and so on. HTML is central when it comes to the front end, whereas CSS and JavaScript enhance the HTML output. In our introduction to HTML, we installed Notepad++, which is the editor we've used throughout the course. We then started experimenting with the main HTML tags. Then we started seeing how to combine HTML and CSS in order to make our web page look better. In the intro on JavaScript, we covered the basics of programming such as loops and conditions, and we started using dialog boxes. We then proceeded to validate forms in real time using JavaScript and to display error messages whenever the user's input was invalid. On the back end, we have another programming language called PHP. It runs on the server, for example, the web host. It receives requests from the client, processes them, and generally returns something to be displayed on the user's browser. One of its main uses is to perform database transactions, that is, read from or write to a database. This can be done with MySQL, which is a database query language. In the lesson on PHP, we set up a local environment to start developing client-server applications. We then saw how to send information back and forth between the client and the server. We used PHP to submit a form, process the form data, and send back some information to the user. Afterwards, we looked at MySQL and used a sample employee database. We connected to the database using phpMyAdmin. We then tested different instructions that can be run on the data, especially to extract specific information based on filters. In the last lesson, we put PHP and MySQL together to create a crude application with different features such as employee statistics and management. Here, I would like to point out that there are other languages out there that can be used for the backend. In my series, I decided to show you the WAMP stack, hence why we installed WAMP server in the introduction to PHP. The M in WAMP stands for MySQL and the P stands for PHP. Instead of PHP, we could have decided to use another language such as C# paired with the ASP.NET framework. It's also possible to use JavaScript itself on the server side with the help of the Node.js framework. In the same way, MySQL is not the only database query language. Some of the alternatives are PostgreSQL and SQL Server, which are both relational database languages based on SQL, meaning the language will be very similar from one to the other except for specific features. There's also the world of NoSQL or non-relational databases with languages such as MongoDB. The interaction between the client and the server can be done in real time without the user needing to refresh the display. This is done using Ajax, which is not a language but a technique to combine the different technologies and allow for asynchronous web applications. We've used Ajax calls extensively throughout the series, be it for form handling or for the crude application. We mentioned frameworks before. This is a concept that I didn't cover in this series because it was meant to focus on the core languages. I believe it's important to understand what goes on under the hood before moving on to using any facilitating tools. However, I'll be starting a new series on Angular, which is a front-end JavaScript framework that really transforms the way we create websites. We'll be exploring the possibilities offered by this framework as well as the different technologies that it can be paired with. Remember that the goal with these lessons was to give the viewers the first push and to help structure the learning process. There are some excellent resources out there that can be used to go in depth and learn the ins and outs of web development. I'll be providing links for different books and tutorials in the description below. Thank you for following along this course. I look forward to seeing you all in the next series about discovering the Angular framework. See you next time.